Week 13 of the 2024-25 NBA season is over, which means it's time to run it back. This is Run It Back, NBA Week in Review. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net, and this is the show where we recap the week that was in the NBA and then highlight the marquee matchup for the week to come. We start like we always do with the only objective overall top 10 NBA power rankings anywhere. You can read more about how we get to these rankings and see the entire list at thepeachbasket.net. Let's take a look at the top 10 at the conclusion of week number 13. Now, this is a bit of an oddity here at the Peach Basket's objective top 10 list, in that no team drops in or out this week. The teams that were top 10 last week are the same teams this week. There's just a lot of movement within the top 10, including at the number one spot. That's right. The Cavs are out of the top spot after 9 weeks of dominating the association. Excited to share with you which team earns the number one spot in week 13. Although if you watch the game, it's probably not too big a shock. The Orlando Magic are reeling, but they still hold on to their top spot in the top 10. They were 1-2 in week 13, which saw them drop from number 9 to number 10 this week. Another team struggling in week 13 are the New York Knicks. They went 2-2, and that saw them drop 3 spots to number 9. So like the Magic, still holding on to the top 10. Now the Los Angeles Clippers had an interesting week. They were perfect. They couldn't do any better. Had 3 games, won all 3, but it wasn't enough for them to move up. They stay at number 7 for the 3rd week in a row. Now the suddenly hot Denver Nuggets, they were 3-1 this past week, and they move up 2 spots from number 8 to number 6 in week 13. Seems like they're starting to figure things out, and Russell Westbrook is a big part of that, and I'm happy for Russ. The Memphis Grizzlies earned the number 5 spot for the 7th week in a row after going 2-1 in week number 13. Number 4 are the defending world champion Boston Celtics. Now, over the course of an 82-game season, even great teams hit bumps in the road. Celtics are a great team, and they hit a bump in week 13. They were 2-2, which saw them drop 1 spot to number 4. The Houston Rockets, another great team. All of the teams in the top 10 are great. But the Rockets took advantage of the Celtics' bad week to move up from number 4 to number 3 in week 13 after going 3-1. And in a bit of a spoiler, the number 2 spot belongs to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, this is their first time out of the number 1 spot in 9 weeks. Absolutely incredible. They've had a great run, but they hit a buzzsaw in Oklahoma City this week. But we're still, 2-2 in week 13. It just wasn't enough to keep them at the top of the mountain. They come in at number 2. Which means, of course, there's a new number 1. There's a new top team in the association in week 13. And they are the Oklahoma City Thunder. The best team in the West was 3-1 in week 13, and that includes a complete domination of the Cavs. Welcome to the top spot, OKC. That's the objective top 10 list for week number 13. Again, if you want to see where all 30 teams land this week, please visit thepeachbasket.net. Now let's shift our focus to the players. These are the best to do it by average in week number 13 of the 2024-25 NBA season. The best by average in shooting, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, points, and game score. Trey Young led everyone in points in week 13, averaging 35.5 per game over his 2 games played, including a big win in Boston. Anthony Edwards was the top sniper, averaging 5.3 3-point field goals made over his 4 games played. While Jalen Brunson led everyone with 12.8 total field goals made over his 4 games played. The top rebounder in the association for week 13 wears a Hornets jersey. Mark Williams played 3 games in week 13 and averaged an amazing 16 rebounds over that time. He's been really good for the Hornets. Williams was also the top offensive rebounder, pulling down 6.3 offensive boards, while Karl Anthony Towns was the top defensive rebounder, averaging 12.5 rebounds over his 2 games played. LaMelo Ball and Nikola Jokic both played 3 games in Week 13 and both averaged 9.7 assists. It's crazy that the top assist guy is a guard and a center. They were both special in Week 13 to lead everyone. Victor Wembanyama was once again the top denier in the association. He played 3 games and averaged 5.3 blocks, including one game where he sent back 8 before halftime. He's incredible. And I always love to discover new players when I look at this list, when I compile the list, and Keaton Wallace is one of those players. He's had a long road to get to the NBA, but he might be here to stay. He plays for the Atlanta Hawks now and had himself a really good week. Despite only playing 1 game, his 4 steals in that 1 game was enough to lead everyone. And the best game score in Week 13 goes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the number 1 ranked Oklahoma City Thunder in our top 10 objective power rankings. He has an incredible overall game, and his game score of 28.4 over his 3 games played in Week 13 is a testament to that. Now let's look ahead to Week 14. There are a few interconference games to look forward to. The Boston Celtics make their way to Los Angeles to take on the Clippers and the Lakers. Those are always great games. While the Cleveland Cavaliers will take on the Houston Rockets. One of the best teams in the East versus one of the best teams in the West. That should be a good game. But if I had to pick a marquee matchup, and I do, because that's what we do here in Week 14, it has to be the quote-unquote Battle of LA between the Lakers and the Clippers. This game always draws attention, and it really means nothing, of course. But there's been a lot going on here in the Los Angeles area, and watching these two teams battle while simultaneously bringing attention to those impacted by the devastating fires here has got to be a primary focus of Week 14. My hope is that that attention brings much needed relief to people impacted. As we look ahead to Week 14, there are a few news items trending. That includes Draymond's apology to Jordan Poole, Bradley Beal's weird limbo state where the Suns are trying to get him to waive his no-trade clause so they can move on from him, Jimmy Butler back playing with the Heat, MVP discussions around Cade Cunningham and Victor Wembanyama. Not that they'll likely win it, but they're in the conversation, which is pretty cool for both of those players. But I want to focus on Draymond. He's clearly had a great career. He's been very successful with his team. Personally, he's the kind of player that I hate watching play when he plays for another team, but would likely love him on a team I support. Now, it's been over 2 years now, 2 years ago, that Green, even then, 2 years ago, still a veteran, punched a youngster, Jordan Poole, during a preseason practice. Poole was subsequently traded to the Wizards, and Green called the incident one of his biggest failures as a vet. And it's that accountability that I like. Now, we're all human, we're all going to make mistakes, and one of the things that separates mature people from immature people is their ability to say, listen, I got it wrong. Now, this is news now. This happened 2 years ago, so why is it news now? Well, Jordan Poole recently said how he still loves players on the Warriors. His exact quote, though, was, most of those players. When that quote was posted online, Draymond replied by saying, I really am sorry. Now, it's hard to gauge tone on social media via text. You never know what people were meant when they said what they said. But I like to think that Draymond's response was sincere. Sincerity, honesty, communication, and accepting responsibility when you're wrong are all things you want to see from a teammate. So big shout out to Draymond. I really do hope he and Poole can get past this years-old incident. That's it. Week number 13 of the 2024-25 NBA season is in the books. Join us again next week after week number 14 when we once again run it back.